This is your friendly neighborhood unicorn. Now flips it. It's January, and before we get to my crazy reselling full-time adventure, let me just start by showing instead of telling. Let me share my screen. Just a second. Share. We're going way back. So what happened was these are 16-inch vintage letters. This was my first from my full-time journey in January of 2024 listing. That's how I did it. And they just ordered from a drop-down menu because I had so many. And you could tell I was just overwhelmed. Look, here's the other one. That's the listing. Look, I have all these letters. Pick one. Okay, so that's how I started off. And you can see through here, that was the majority of my sales. Okay, I was also selling a lot of books I had, D&D, and then some textbooks we acquired, but mainly it was those letters. Okay, so let me stop screen sharing. Okay. What happened was I was doing it for fun, decluttering in 2023. Not for fun, but like I found out through TikTok that I could sell my stuff on eBay and I needed to declutter. I had been decluttering for like 3 years. It took me because I also had a preschool at one time and it was a daycare, but really it was a preschool. So and I was doing a digital download business. Now, reselling is great. Uh, Let me pause for a minute. Okay, we're back. Bonjour. Okay, oh, here's my kitty. I don't want to go off on a big tangent. I already could not work a job in my area because they all entail physical things that I cannot do. I'm in a small town. The jobs available for my skill bracket all require a lot of physical work, which I had no problem doing. But my last job was in a summer school extracurriculum teacher, and we moved the entire district supply room. I have a degenerative disc. They paid me 3 weeks late and I'd had it. That was just the final straw. So then I had to go online. I did not go online in 2020 like everybody else. I was doing online things. I had a blog for my preschool for fun. I sold that. I went into blogging. I sold and did digital downloads. I sold that. It didn't make even a part-time income, and I switched to reselling. So why not, right? I knew how to do everything except I didn't really know how to source. So this video is going to go into all the things they don't talk about. And part of the reason they don't talk about is because they're not sexy. And part of the reason is I think that a lot of resellers don't have to deal with the things I did because they're either selling part-time or they're so massive that they didn't have to deal with like the obstacles. Like they jumped into it after doing it for a while, whereas I had business experience and just decided to resell. So that's quite a different thing. And this business for me now is like I make it or I break it. Like I'm not going to be able to start a whole new career. I'm not moving from my town. We're not moving till my husband retires. I am married. And I do want to say that I have worked on structuring my business to fit my life and not the other way around. So the income I make is probably part-time for other people. We live very simply. We find simple living gives us more freedom and we have a budget. So, uh, sorry about that. I'm not starting this video over just because I have lipstick on my teeth. So, okay, so here we are, and I'm going to go over what I wish people told me or what you need to know, whether it's boring or not, because reselling is not all about treasure finding if you're going to go full time. It's just not. So, okay, so let's get started on point number uno. Ein one. Okay, one thing that I had to get over that was mental block, but also that you need to be aware with that very few people talk about because believe me, I watch tons and tons and tons of videos is how often do you source? Where do you source? How far do you have to drive to source? And do you have a sourcing route? So I am in a small town. And again, before I tell you, let me show you. So let's share screen again. Share screen. Okay. And you should be able to see. So this is the town. There's a lake here. There's a mountain this side. Here's some hills. Okay, there's nothing over here. Here's the town again, and you can see our winters are cold and icy. It's the ice, not the snow that's hard to drive in. We're surrounded by hills. We're on the end of the Cascades, the opposite side of Oregon from Portland. So we're not by I-5. We're by a little highway called 99. You have to go 90 miles in either direction to get to population to get to I-5. This here is Crater Lake, and that's only like 40 minutes from us. There's nothing. So, um, this is where we are. So you would have to go here for a little population, really all the population is on this side. I used to complain. Let me stop sharing my screen here. Let's see. We'll go back to Zoom and see where I am. Oh, I didn't share it. Great. Okay, here we go. Now you can see all these images that I'm talking about. Here I am, way over here. There's really nothing here unless you go 90 miles. This is hours and hours. There's nothing here but desert. You go way over here. It takes about 6 to 8 hours to get to Portland. That's I-5. And here you can see, so here you could see town, lake, town surrounded by hills, right? But you could see past those hills. I think that's Shasta. And then on other side we have mountains. So it's really hard to get the full effect because we're in a bowl and that's the foothills of the mountains. And then there's the mountains. So that was something I had to get over. Here we go. Was how do I source in my small town? Okay. and just kind of getting over that stigma. So that mindset, I don't want to say stigma, mindset. So what you have to figure out, right, is how often can you source? How many miles do you have to drive? How much time it takes, your route, the frequency, and your efficiency. So it's not just, oh, I'm going to go to the thrift store today and I'll thrift for 3 hours. You know what I mean? eBay, especially, you need to list every day. If you don't list every day, it's going to show up. And I've logged it. I actually use this now because I got off track in November and I was kind of all over the place. And I don't remember why that was. But I have this. This is from Ryan's, it's a Ryan from CD Galaxy Rocks, and it has the week, what you need to do, your goals. Wait, let's see if I can, your goals and this. And when I don't use this, I get off track. So I'm not, and right now, so, okay. When you look, you have to figure out how far do you need to drive, how much time does that take, etc. How frequently are you going? That's usually going to change depending on the summer or the winter, okay? So I can say that I was shy in, I didn't have any confidence, so I didn't go to, also I worry about safety, so I can't go out of town. I will not go out of town by myself to a garage sale. I don't think it's safe, but I will go in town. So the this year, I will be going all the time. I'll be checking Facebook market all the time. In fact, I need to write a list to do that because I will forget. If I get too busy, I've gotten into the habit, bad habit. Sometimes I noticed last year, well, I just get an itch. I'm like, I need to go source. I need to go source. I'm missing out. I need to go see. I haven't been blah 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 blah. And I got completely off track. I spent too much. I had too much stuff to list, and I got, so it's important to figure out your route. So before you go full time, it is better to figure that out before and not like I did as I went. Not just, oh, I love going to this thrift store and seeing what I could find. It's like, no, what thrift stores do I hit on a regular basis? And how much time does that take? Because what I notice when I go thrifting, that's going to cut into half my day. By the time I get out of the house, I get ready, I go, I drop my packages off because I drop packages off. Then I go to one store, then I go to another. And then next thing you know, I get home, I carry my packages. I have to unload everything and put it where it needs to go so I don't lose it. I need to make sure I put my receipts away, put my cost of goods, etc. Okay, another thing that we need to look at is the number one mistake I see, and that's kind of touching. I observed what when I watched everything, and I still continue to watch everything, but it's on a different level now, not everything, but certain things habitually to learn. But in my first year, I was watching everything, and the number one, and I was identifying what are the things I want to emulate and what are the things I don't. One thing I noticed is that people thrift too much, they buy too much, and they don't source out their profits. I have always sourced out my profits. That's why I could go full time because I had those consignment letters. And that's how I built my business. I've never, so there are times I can say, oh, well, there were 2 times that I used uh, extra money that I hadn't made yet, which was my husband's income or savings, and I transfer it back or I buy something extra, whatever. So I'm always putting that back into the household money. I don't buy, I only source from my profits. I don't source from other money. I think it's really dangerous. And I also don't use credit cards. I don't use PayPal, whatever. What I have instead of a PayPal, oh, they're like, yeah, you make this percentage of money. And then, well, if you could pay that off every month and be disciplined enough, good for you. But I don't like being in a debt. One of the things, one of our goals is to be completely out of debt by the time my husband retires in 12 years. So we paid off one car, then we bought a truck, right? That's how we are. So I don't want to be like, oh, I want a PayPal card and then I'm gonna, same with TJ Maxx. Yeah, if you can, they have points off, but you have better make sure that you pay that off right away. I don't think it's wise to a certain degree. I have considered taking out an eBay loan this summer for garage sales, which you pay it back out of your earnings, and it's a very low interest or whatever that they take. So, but I to this day have only spent out of what I've made. If I have a low sales month, I don't buy very much. That's how that goes. So. Okay, and then that keeps the benefit of that is it keeps you, it's less to keep track of, it's less bookkeeping because every dollar you spend, you've got to write it down. You've got to write it down because you want those deductions, right? You want those deductions. And if you're like me, you're not spending very much, so you need every deduction you can get to offset whatever you earn. Then you're balancing inventory and space. Every time you go out to buy, you need a place to put that. I have a small space. So when I started, right, I was like, I don't have a lot of space. We have a very small house we rent. We have a small shed. Um, we did not have, I have one room. We don't have a basement. So I really had to be conscientious of how much I was buying, how much I had space for, and I have to have a certain sell-through rate also on certain items. If I have bigger items, they need to sell faster. That's another benefit of sourcing with consistency. And I'm not talking about sourcing once a week. Sometimes, like in December, I sourced twice. That's all. I sourced twice. That's all I did. So, because I didn't need anything. Another thing that nobody talked about was how to manage your supplies, all that cardboard, all those free boxes you're picking up, boxes you're ordering, boxes you get from Amazon that you're keeping. Tape is a little easier to manage. Poly bags are easier to manage. I also use the cellophane bags to wrap my items in, so I have several sizes of those to manage. But it was the boxes, like the mess of boxes. I cannot deal with mess. I can't, if I have too many things, too much overstock that I haven't listed, if I have too many boxes, I can't. That got out of control. So now I have a system. I have a place, I have a set of shelves. I store my small to medium boxes. I break down the big boxes and I had to reorganize. We reorganized our entire three-quarters parts of our shed. And I have a place for the bigger boxes. And then what I do is I can't always remember what size boxes I have there. I write it down on one of my inventory sheets at the bottom, saying these are the size boxes I have out there. So that's something you need to, and you also need to remember you're going to have a cost for supplies. I don't care how frugal you are. And that is you're going to need to be realistic about what supplies do I need? How often am I ordering tape? Where am I getting tape? And yes, you could get tape off Amazon, but sometimes maybe you want to, like for me, I'm a smaller reseller, so I don't want to buy 1,200 bags at a time or 1,200 boxes at a time. There's certain boxes I buy. I just go to Staples. I get points there and they'll have buy two, get one free, and I just buy from there. So you need to look at and see where am I going to get my supplies? How often am I going to go through my supplies? And where are you going to store those supplies? One reason I don't like getting the big American Bubble Boy is because it's a pain to store. It's like now I have to find a place to put that. So there's that. I also want to talk about business model, which I see a lot of people wanting to go full time or hoping they can go full time. Of course, it's very, very hard to go full time if you don't have other sources of income. Most full-time resellers that I've seen, they're getting several streams of income. So they're doing reselling, they're doing this side business, they're doing an antique mall, they're doing social media, and really that's the key to today, right? For our security is have several sources of income, right? So my husband has his, but also he's starting to help me with the reselling thing a little bit with sourcing, mainly, and sometimes packing, and also setting up my business area. But also, I still do my digital downloads and I'm trying to expand that and work on that. I also have more than one platform I sell on. So we're looking at your business model. And before you go full time, that's what you need to do is figure out your business model before you even start. So I knew before I was like, okay, I've got enough stock. I can go full time now and I can buy inventory off of what I sell. So I used the things I already had in my home, which I'd been doing for a year for fun, but I had some things still and I had all those letters, right? And that's how I started building, 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 trying to figure out what to source. That's a whole nother thing. I'm only gonna touch on that because it's really involved. Then I knew I didn't want to hire an employee and I knew I didn't have any help. Some people have help. Some people have their whole family helping. Some people have their spouse and their child, adult child helping. Some people have friends they could count on. Some people have help with things like, oh, my dad's going to the post office. They can drop something off. Because I can tell you, even going to the post office every day, which I do every day, cuts into my day. It's a lot. When you're one person, you've got to be super tight on your ROI for time. Yes, the money is important, but if you don't get your time right, that money just goes out the window because you're not doing the streamlined process for the money to happen. So, and also, no, I'm not going to get into that. I'm going to make another video talking about my mistakes that messed me up. Okay. Do you want to hire, because you can also hire somebody. You can also have do you want to rent a place for storage? You can do that. I personally don't know if I will ever do that because I'm just so tight with my money. But, and I don't trust storage units here, but it's not something that I've written off entirely. Are you willing to do that? Are there storage units to do that? How much are they? Do you want to use a cross lister? Are you only going to sell on one platform or are you going to sell on other platforms? Start investigating your cross listers now. I use Auto Posture. It's great. It's always delist. I've never had it not delist. I always double check it. I've used it since April. That helped me expand my business. It's also a great tax write-off because again, we don't have a lot of tax write-offs because we don't have kids in the house. When you have kids in the house and you don't own your own house, you're not buying a house, you don't have a lot of tax write-offs, right? I So that's also a good tax write-off. And then what's the other thing? Hold on just a minute. This was the second error I feel like people didn't look at. And this is why I stopped watching many businesses. videos, or I don't want to say business videos, reseller videos, because they're all the sensational part. Oh, look, I found, $162 book at this garage sale or whatever. It's like, okay, fine, but that's not helpful to me. And their reselling is a business. It's just a sort of business. There are a few business resellers here, but it's hard to see because they're so big what a model looks like. So the three people I found that were helpful, not necessarily emulate that model, but to see what a small like me, right? I'm not this big, it's just me model looks like was ABC Matt, because ABC Matt's part-time. He solves certain kinds of things. He has space limits. He takes public transportation. There's all these things that he has put his business model, even though he does it as a hobby for fun, that you can go, oh, I can see his business model. It's very obvious, right? It's very obvious, at least to see what one looks like and to see the framework of one. The other one is Galaxy CDs and Rocks. He's another one that you could see his business model just by listening to him. And there's another one. It is ATI, Abundant Tags Inc. He has a business model. So make sure that you have good mentors also. Make sure that you are networking and doing what you can, because you need to have peers, not just peers who are entertaining and putting out those, videos about, look, I sold this vintage item, I sold this vintage item. That's great. You need to know at the source or whatever, but what you need peers that are talking about their business models. How are they going through their inventory and getting rid of inventory at the end of the year? How, are they doing a strict sell-through rate? How are they storing? How fast do they store? What do they source? Why do they source what they source? Some people source only vintage items because that's probably, okay, it froze, sorry. I, so that's what I'm saying. Make sure you know your business model. Um, before you go full time. At least have a general framework. Obviously, within that framework, it's going to change, right? But you need to know what your boundaries are so you can start building within that framework. So, the two biggest mistakes I made was one, not, I did have an inventory system. I grew too fast and it broke. And I had to step back, get that together before I could move forward. That affected my sales. The other thing, that means not listing or whatever, just getting it together, then moving forward. The other thing was not understanding coupons, percentages, how to set my prices. So with those coupons, understanding how to use coupons, how to do sales, making sure that if somebody has a sale and a coupon, that I did not owe money, but I had some things that were like this much, that kind of thing, because some of my items are lower price. So those are marketing tools that have definitely made a business difference in my business. Also using some flat rate shipping, not all flat rate shipping for me for now, because I'm in Oregon. My zones back east to like New York and stuff are super spendy. So for in some ways it's better to offer flat rate shipping. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. There's all these nuances. I would like to say that I can't believe I'm successful with as many mistakes as I made. I canceled 3 times when my inventory system broke. So that was within Q4. Um, I had one negative review the first in 2024. Um, I didn't know a lot of things about shipping and I shipped anyway. Uh, there's just so much that I did not know. And I had a lot of help, but despite all those mistakes, and I just got a positive review. Uh, but it said that the poster I sold had roll-up marks, and I was like, it doesn't have roll-up marks. It was never rolled, but they left a positive review, so I just said, I don't know, it was never rolled, and I didn't see the ding, and sorry, and I'm glad you can make it work. And there's so many small things that I used to sweat about, and I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll just overcome it with positive reviews, or I'll just overcome it by whatever. So, um, I had a really terrible return that affected my account. I got a really positive review, but so I messed up so much and I still made money. And I, I have gone from working 60 hours. I've changed my business. I'm not working 60 hours a week. I can't keep up that pace. I don't list on weekends anymore. I think yesterday I listed 3 things just because I had only listed 7 on Friday. I'm trying to list 70 a week. I typically list 50 a week. That's just going to have to be what it is. I need the weekends for other things in my business besides listing. And I just need a whole nother break. I need to be able to do my digital downloads. It's a creative outlet. I need to be able to make videos. I just need a break. And I make better listings if I don't list every day because of that. So I took my whole business from the vintage being a top 5% seller in vintage letters. And I had to shift what I sourced and get successful in other niches and figure out what sold here, which turned out to be books. And I do source other things here, right? Because, a small town, books may dry up. There are book resellers here, but not ones like me. Um, I don't know if they're selling on Craigslist. I don't know. So I always, have a mix, toys, clothes, other things I find when I'm looking for books. I shifted from being a 0.5% top seller, right? I was doing very well in Q2. I started going downhill because I backed off on those because I knew those letters weren't going to last forever. And it took me until the end of Q4 to finally work my way back to a steadier sell thing because I had to build up things that sold and shift away from those letters because those letters, and also since I started, it's got much more competitive. I was the only one selling 16-inch letters or 10-inch letters. Now it's completely got more competitive. And now because I'm at the end of those letters, that's gone down. But I knew that when I started. I knew that when I started. I'm like, the majority is this is what I'm selling. I can't do that forever. I need to shift now. And that's something else to be aware of. So it's a good thing I knew that when I started out. And I am the most proud of that, even though the amount of money I make is twice as much as I made in 2023, but it still would be considered a part-time income for many people even though I made a lot of mistakes, even though I would like to be, if I can double next year where I'm at now, I'll be happy. If I can double next year, more likely I will half it. That's the likelihood. So I hope this helps. Again, I'm not this. I guess what I'm saying is if I can do it, you can do it. And there's lots of potential. And that's a great thing about reselling. But at the same time, it's not as easy as everybody makes it seem. And there's little things that are business things that nobody talks about. because people don't want to hear about. But the thing is, if you really want to go full time, you can probably go full time. You just need to build those things into your business so you can do that. I know people who have done it. So, okay. Anyway, this was my transparency. One of the reasons that I'm on video, the main one is for the community, and the second one is for transparency, because as a reseller, it got very discouraging for me when I wasn't doing very well to watch just how all these people were pulling out, look, I sold this for $100 and this, and they're not talking about cost of goods. They're not talking about any of that. They're not talking about how they've had to spend 5 years going to estate sales to build up their inventory, or how they have to hit routes every week, or the realistic thing of it, right? They're just talking about this seller, that seller. That's entertaining, but it can be discouraging. So I'm really careful anymore about that, and I don't like it. To me, the beauty of reselling is that we can have the freedom to do it in a way that fits our life. And for people like me who don't have, even though I have an education, I have a HCE certificate, I have a 2-year degree, I have lots of experience in mental health and education with my child, and then in workplaces, but I still cannot find something that would not absolutely break my body down if I did it year after year. It's something to look at. So this is going to be unedited. You might have sound, so if you're anyway, okay, this is my accountability here's to a happy 25 where all of us stay sane and stay awesome. If you got this far, thank you for watching.